Hello cryptids of the internet. Thank you so much for attending my very first video. If you're here, congratulations. You just won a star. You can pick whichever star you want in the universe. Except for Zibinul Janubi, that is my star. And so today I feel like yapping about some incidences that happened when I worked with a specific little wholesome games studio. I remember the boss telling me, we don't function like other companies and studios, we're different. And yeah, that should have been a red flag because most companies function similarly because it's more sustainable that way. I almost forgot to introduce myself. I am Zap. I'm an artist. This is my art at the back. I have worked with many different developers within the Australian games industry, and I'm going to make this fun. We're going to make a tier list out of all of the incidences that happen. Incidences. I said that right 3 times. We're going to rate incidences based off of vibes. So my tier list is kind of unique. This is how it looks like. I'm a very visual person. I can't put a numerical or an alphabetical rating on experiences that I've had. So this is what you're gonna get. These are all the vibes that this studio made me feel. It's an emotional roller coaster. Oh my god, let's get started already. This first one is pretty tame. Immediately after I got hired, I went on an IKEA run with the boss at night. It wasn't paid, by the way. I was too scared to follow up on that because if you're a game developer in Australia, you will understand how bloody brutal it is to find a job. And it took me 2 years to land myself this job, so I wasn't gonna complain about anything. So yeah, I dealt with it. That's not even the weirdest part from this incident. She looked at me very seriously. We were at the lamps section. She was like, in the past, people got very jealous from the rest of the employees. I hope you're not one of them. And I thought that was shocking. What do you mean by that? I think she was insinuating that a certain group of people are treated better than others in the studio, and she was trying to warn me that in the past, people complained about that, and she calls them jealous. And bro, that is so twisted. How could you say that to a new employee? I feel like she was setting the standard before I begin my shift so that if I ever felt segregated, it's because I'm jealous. So let's see, the fun part is where I'm going to place this IKEA run. It did make me feel emo and small, like a little blood cell. And I think that face perfectly encapsulates how that made me feel. We had a shipment of ergonomic tools that people can have on their desks. They're these tiny little tables that you put under a monitor so that you can sit upright. And I was helping putting them together with a co-worker, and she, the boss, screams from the corner of the room, that obnoxious lady, and she says, by the way, and she has this really annoying mousy voice, this certain ethnic group get first priority on the ergonomic tools. Girl, why would you say that? There was enough tools for everyone. You just created this really awful tension between employees. It is deeply socially unintelligent to, as a boss, by the way, 35-plus-year-old woman, you're supposed to bringing people in together, not hyperfixating on people's ethnic backgrounds. It would have made sense if we prioritized people with disability or health conditions that make them require ergonomic tools, but it was just out of hand and out of pocket to say that it rubs you the wrong way, like. And you also need to consider the fact that during the IKEA run, she said that if you ever complain, you're jealous. Like, she was already trying to plant the idea in my head. Also, context, she's a white lady and the ethnic group she's not part of that ethnic group. She just has a weird obsession with a specific ethnic group. She shouldn't have said that. Like, you're just a loser. That's what you are. You don't know how to run a proper team. And I think priority peers made me I'm feeling Frey Carlo right now. I think like, girl, what are you saying? Like, you're trying to insinuate that you would rather some people work more comfortably than others based off of their ethnic background. And that is so messed up. And everyone got their ergonomic tools. You just had to be a little asshole and like be a loser, you know? Okay, the same boss, yes. She always introduces people by their name and ethnic background. Every time she introduces me to someone, hi, this is Zap. She's Iraqi. When she introduces herself, she doesn't say like, I'm white. Like, in her mind, she is the default race and everyone else is a different flavor. And she does that with every single employee. Hey, this is Alice. She's Turkish. This is Lucy. She is, I was going to say French, but that's not flavorous enough. I don't think she would introduce a French person. This is Lucy. She's Vietnamese. She does that with everyone. So that one gets me feeling a little bit maybe emo. Yeah. And like in the studio, I feel very hyper aware of my own identity. And that's like an uncomfortable feeling. Like, why are you making me constantly be aware of myself? Like, if someone says, oh, if you have like, I don't know, that's a good example. If you have blue hair and then someone keeps saying, oh, that's Candy with the blue hair. That's Candy, she's got blue hair. And then keeps mentioning the fact that you have blue hair. You're hyper aware of the fact that you have blue hair. I was hyper aware of the fact that I'm a Muslim and I am Iraqi because of how much she was obsessed with that. And I called this incident diversity points too, because I think she keeps a little notebook in her back pocket where every single person she meets who is slightly ethnic, she would put a little tally and it would make her feel good about that. You know what? I'm tired already. I'll talk to you later. I can't be bothered finishing this now. See you guys. I didn't even start and I'm already quitting. Hey cryptids, I am back. And before we continue, I'd like to show you a book I've been recently reading, The Laws of Human Nature. Now that looks familiar, doesn't it? It is by the same author of 48 Laws of Power. And if that book, 48 Laws of Power, if that was an evil man, this would probably be the good twin sister. Everyone should read that one. Don't read the other one. This really teaches you about how you bond with people and how you can understand where people come from. And there's a specific chapter that really caught my eyes and it kind of made me emotional because it is very sweet. It talks about Captain Shackleton, who had a trip to Antarctica and he got stuck there for 8 months. And the first thing he had to do is he realized it was going to be hard. He needs to have every single member of his crew on board. So he looked for the weakest links and focused on them. The first guy was someone who was the photographer. He felt that his contribution was useless because he is a photographer. So what Captain Shackleton did was ask for his advice, make him feel special, talk to him, and he looked for anyone who could potentially cause trouble or conflicts within the team and also pay attention to them in ways that made them lower their guard. It is a very tense, high-stakes situation, so he was very alert during this whole experience being stuck for 8 months in a very cold and merciless environment. He did things like waking up earlier than everyone, making hot tea, lightening the mood by joking and having a very positive attitude. And he maintained that sort of very high emotional intelligent behavior throughout the whole 8 months, and they were saved at the end. And I thought that was beautiful. And whoever runs a studio needs to have that same mindset. No amount of talking about diversity and ethics and oppression and minorities or whatever, no amount of this heroistic talk will make your studio run properly. It is how you treat everyone and how everyone feels within the team. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to bring everyone together. Whoever's running a studio out there, I highly recommend you to read this book. I know it's War and Peace size, but I highly recommend Miss Boss. Please read this book. It might teach you how to deal with people a lot better. So now we have the tier list opened up, and the drawing tablet is the next incident. I wasn't given a drawing tablet for the entire duration I worked there. I was a concept artist. At the start, I used my iPad, and then I realized that the art director is never at the studio. She probably comes once in a blue moon. So I thought I could just use her desk to get work done. I use the tablet, I finish my work, and I log off. The thing is, I am in the studio every single day of my shifts every week. And then when the art director comes in, she goes and dibby-dobs to Miss Boss and tells her that someone has been using her desk. I have never seen her use the drawing tablet. I've never seen her make any art. She just sits there. Sometimes she complains about being sick and low mood, and then she goes home. Miss Boss comes to me and says, "Oh, Zap, please don't use the computer. Art director doesn't like it when you use it." And I'm like, I'm here every day. Why does the art director have a whole PC set up and I don't have one? The art director should have my laptop that you gave me. By the way, I have to be clear. They did give me a laptop to use, so that's something. But the art director should have the laptop. I should have the PC set up so I can do work, because I'm here more than the art director. And the art director is complaining about me using her setup when she is available once every 6 months. She comes by as a surprise guest, as a legendary Pokemon sighting. I should clarify here that the PC setup doesn't belong to the art director. It actually belongs to the studio, but it was just assigned to her, and she is overly protective over the PC setup. I don't even care for the PC, I just need a tablet. And she's also really upset when someone uses her tablet. And I can't use her setup, and she gets mad when someone logs in. I don't leave anything behind, by the way. I upload all of my work on the drive and then move on. But she realizes that someone has logged in when she sees my username detail, and then she gets really upset. I didn't do anything to her. I didn't do anything to her PC setup. It's just like that. So, this makes me feel I genuinely want to crash out when I think about this story. So I think I'm going to put it under Crash Out Alpha Wolf. Since I got very worked up by the previous incident, I'm going to talk about a funny one. There is another company that I will just call it a rival company. For some reason, Miss Boss has a lot of rivals, and this rival company does something that is absolutely revolting, according to Miss Boss. What that other rival company does is post pictures of the employees along with their racial background added at the bottom of their bio. Do you know how you go to a company website and then you look at their employees? It would have a picture, a name, and then where they're from. And Miss Boss really hated that. She thought like, oh my God, look how tokenizing this is. It's absolutely revolting and unbelievable. And she kept talking and talking about that rival company. But guess who does the same thing? If you scroll low enough on this Miss Boss's company's Twitter, you'll see employee introduction, the team's introductions, and there's a picture of them, their name and their ethnic background. That's on the Twitter. The biggest mystery is why is it tokenizing when this other lady does it, but it's not weird when you do it? Don't you remember that you did that too? It was so funny, and like I actually didn't say anything because I didn't care. And the fascinating thing is that she doesn't put her name and then say that she's white. Do you know how being white is the default race? Yeah, she only introduces her name. She's the only real human, and everyone else are like different flavors. That's why she has to put the flavor of the human that they are. This was extremely funny, and I think finally we have something positive to put up here. This is exactly how this particular situation makes me feel. Sick day is a day I will never forget. I was called to come in for one meeting. I was the sickest I have ever been in my life, and I was told to come in for one meeting. Now, what was the meeting, you may ask? I cannot remember, and it was so insignificant. There was nothing important about that meeting, nor did I contribute to that meeting. I even told Miss Boss, I'm going to take an Uber. I'm not going to travel on the train because I am coughing every couple of seconds. My chest is hurting from how much I'm coughing, and I don't want to be here. But she insisted I come in person for this meeting. Instead of calling in from like a laptop or a Zoom, I had to come in person. I'm so special, I have to be there in person. And why did I have the most talkative Uber driver I have ever had to ride with till this day? This guy did not stop yapping about himself. He was an aspiring musician. He showed me some of his music. He wanted to add me. He wanted to get my number. I refused. And that guy kept talking and talking and talking. And I was choking on my... Okay, I'm sorry, this is disgusting. I was choking on my phlegm because of how sick I was. This guy talks to me. I can barely answer this guy when he's talking to me. He keeps like he's driving. Let me demonstrate. Driving and driving, looking back at me. Driving, looking back, and I wasn't in the mood to be dealing with this guy. And then I get to the meeting. I don't remember what the meeting's about. I'm coughing and coughing. I see my co-worker in my peripheral vision, and they are moving across the table like this. And then they slowly come back in with a mask on whilst I'm coughing profusely, and I don't blame them. I was the sickest I've ever been, and I was gonna make everyone else sick in that room. Yeah, I'll never forget that day, and I am going to rate this one. I was extremely sick, so I'm going to put it under hospital anime girl meme. That is the only way I can describe how I felt that day. A road trip sounds really fun. There are only 3 people in the entire team that could drive. Everyone else, ages ranging from 40 to 21. No one else drives. There's around 10 of us. We had a 6-hour trip, 3 to the place and 3 back home. I think this boss doesn't realize how tiring driving can be. So I am so grateful that I got to skip out on a camping trip that was a 12-hour drive. I had some family stuff happen, so I wasn't able to do the camp, which was a 12-hour drive, and I was going to be one of the designated drivers. Oh my god. I feel so sorry for anyone who had to drive that day or like weekend. But yes, we had a road trip to this rural gallery. It was really scary because I had a passenger with me and we almost crashed the car. It was raining and we had to drive over 100 kilometers an hour. It was terrifying. And I hate it when people ask me to drive them on long trips. But I wasn't going to say no. Remember, it's hard to get a job in the games industry, so I didn't complain. When we got to the gallery, we looked around, it was nice. And the thing that was kind of heartbreaking was that there's another boss in the team, and this other boss brought little keychains for everyone except for a select few people from the gallery as a little souvenir. Now, I don't care for the keychain, but it was the principle of buying everyone the keychain and leaving 3 people out. 2 of them was myself and another person, another co-worker who were the designated drivers. So it was such a slap in the face that you would buy those little keychains from this gallery that we drove you to everyone else in that specific minority group and not buy for everyone involved in the whole trip. There was a lot of audacity coming from that boss. I don't care about the keychain. Let me tell you, I don't care about the keychain. It is the idea around it, separating people and polarizing them. It was so rude and so mean-spirited. So I have nothing else to say about this. It was just, I don't know, bully behavior. So I'm going to put this under, I felt very emo, so I'm going to put it under hemoglobin. I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, which is myself. If you're still here, do consider subscribing, because every time a subscription happens, a little zapling on the internet is born, which adopts the subscriber's personality and aesthetic. Isn't that adorable? And also, do consider buying my interactive stickers. This is the first one I have designed. It interacts really beautifully with light. It looks beautiful under sunlight. But I love experimental art. I love interactive media. So this character is called Ectozap and it's part of the Zappoverse. There's a lot of characters in the Zappoverse. And I can't wait to make more interesting stuff, but I do need people to be interested in those things for me to continue making them. And also the most important part of this segment is to thank you guys for making it this far. Like, why are you watching this video? Go do something else. No, I'm kidding. Continue watching it. For a short period of time, we had an office inside a shared space. I'm not going to say what it is, but there's a lot of people around the area. Actually, maybe I should give context because it's important for this story. It was a university and we had one of the rooms was designated to our studio to use as a temporary office. Now, I don't know if you've met game developers, but we dress in pajamas and rock up to our jobs. And we were in the offices at the start of the year, the very, very start, when no one's around. We set up the office, everything has been settled in, and so the staff members begin working a bit later. So one guy saw that we were inside that room that is usually a student room, and this is very understandable. He thought we were squatters. We were dressed in beanies and hoodies and slippers or whatever. Very comfortably. I had a blanket there too. He thought we were squatters. So he got security, and after a not violent back and forth. It was explained to that staff member that we were not squatters, but that sent the entire studio into orbit. Everyone said it was racist, it was awful, it was the most traumatic thing ever. And I was astounded because it was just a misunderstanding. They wanted to get the guy fired. We had an entire week break to get over the trauma. And I just thought it was a fascinating experience. Now, I don't mind having 1 week break. So that's going to be rated as the Happy Sunshine and Rainbow tier. This one is a little bit of a heavier one, and I'm sad that I have to end this with a heavier topic. But we were playing a game that involved a cult. So the conversation of cults came into play. And I very naively said that the biggest cult in modern day is Jehovah's Witness. And I said that from an objective standpoint because a couple of weeks back, I was researching cults and I came across a cult specialist who said that the biggest modern day cult is Jehovah's Witness. And I thought that was like a factual statement. In hindsight, I shouldn't have said that. And I do apologize that this came out of my mouth and it could have hurt someone. It was just based off of the requirements there are to be classified as a cult that I thought, okay, this actually would be a cult. But I do take that back. This, however, brought out a version of Miss Boss I didn't think existed. First of all, she was offended by what I said. She doesn't follow any particular religion, but she supports all religions, which is lovely. However, she absolutely slammed me on that statement that I made. So the first thing she attacked was my own faith, which goes to show that she does have bigotry in her heart. It just sits behind the wall until you poke at it. She did berate me about my religious beliefs and how organized religions can all be considered cults and stuff, but it's so far from the truth. An idea of a cult is a group of people who segregate themselves from the rest of society, and they are self-sustained. And Muslims are not people who try to push themselves away from society. That's not what we do. And I was really scared after all the berating she did that night. And it did make me feel extremely terrified of saying something that would tick her off. It made me realize that she's also kind of like discriminatory because the first thing she attacked was my identity and my spirituality. So yeah, that was scary. I forgot to say this in my recording, but I'd like to point out that instead of challenging my viewpoint, the boss decided to just tear down my own faith. Whilst I pointed out a specific sect within Christianity that could be considered a cult, my boss attacked the entirety of Islam. That's like me attacking the entirety of Christianity. She just has this really violent way of talking to people, and it did make me feel like I'm not really safe. If the boss had mentioned that Islam has sects that are cult-like, I would agree with her. It was just this awful disproportionate response she had to my statement. And I don't mind having my statements challenged. And I want to remind you that this dynamic between myself and the boss is not equal. She is the boss and I am an employee, so there is a power imbalance between us. And it can be really threatening when your boss is kind of tearing down your identity because of a statement that you take back. And I am very apologetic about mentioning that Jehovah's Witness is a cult. I just wish it wasn't received with such animosity. So I think this last one made me feel like the hospital anime girl meme. I think I'm gonna get judgment for complaining about such mild experiences, but I enjoyed making this tier list. It was fun, and I want to give you a bit of perspective. Experiences like this happened on a daily basis, every single week for a handful of years, so it does get a bit overwhelming and it does wear you out over time. I used to rock up to work feeling really miserable and just dreading having to interact with the people in charge. And I'd like to make this clear, I loved everyone I worked with. All of the employees, they were so beautiful. My issue was with the leadership. I will never forget working with the awesome people, the artists, and the programmers I worked with. They're so cool. It wasn't until I left that job and entered a more established corporate that I realized it was the work environment that made me miserable. It wasn't the idea of working. I thought it was a skill issue first. I thought I couldn't handle a job, and that did give me a bit of shame. But I found a job that was so stable. They had very grounded workplace rules that made it a safe and sustainable environment for the long term. And when I was able to see the comparison between the indie studio and the other corporate, that's when I realized like I wasn't really the issue. And fun fact, the reason why I made this video is because I have a lot of game developer friends who also worked with indie studios, and they have very, very similar experiences as me. They all say that they have mixed feelings about working with indie studios and that they would prefer working in another kind of environment. For this tier list, I didn't even pick out the worst experiences. I only explored random incidences that I remember. If I was to list all of them, the video will be well over an hour, maybe 2 hours. Talking about this studio is very cathartic. A lot of the experiences I talked about, I have never said out loud.